welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Joining me today, you know him, you love him, and he's having a great hair day. It's Jerome Cheng.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what my therapist said earlier, just before this too.
Really?
Yeah, I have this thing, like, I think people, I've had a buzz cut since 2019, like since about a few weeks after the Raptors won the championship. I did it because I was so burnt out and I didn't want hair, and somehow kept it through the pandemic and throughout. So I think it's like been surprising people to like have hair again. So like if someone hasn't seen, like we haven't gotten a chance to like see each other since basically the last episode. So like now it's just between the blonde and everything. They're like, oh wow, your hair looks nice. I'm like, yeah, because I guess I have hair now, which is nice.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought you might have had a curlier hair texture. Is that weird?
No, that's fair. I mean, I did have a period where because I wanted to have like that, I like as an Asian person with coarse like straight hair, I actually like got a perm and everything. And like,
You got a perm?
yeah, I'll send you the photos afterward.
That's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. But beyond that, no. It's actually the thing I mentioned that is like a bit of a relief is, like because I'm now 40, I really did not know what my hair situation is like in terms of growing back. So it was like
right.
it was nice to be like, oh yeah, it's still growing in really thick and like full, which is that's a nice relief. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also happy with my hair at this stage in life. I do have like more grays though. Like I'm definitely growing like a stripe at like the front.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm
No,
not
they're
re-
definitely
but I'm
grays
not
under
ready
here.
but I'm not ready for that.
Oh, you don't
No,
want
last
the gray
week's
situation?
episode I definitely had some gray roots showing.
Okay,
Just
and you were not a fan?
no, but I've dyed it now.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
All right.
One
Yeah,
day.
we're not
One
seeing
day
any-
I think I'll have like a really cute like white front part of my hair, but
I mean, it
not-
is also
not
like
yet.
very much a sign of like the patriarchy that like we are on two opposing sides of it. I was just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna look like super cool, all salt and pepper, like not feeling the stress of it, I think.
Yeah, no one's gonna call me handsome and distinguished, you know?
Yeah, no one's gonna be like, wow, look at Catheryn's George Clooney-esque like charm. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really in her Anderson Cooper era.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one's gonna say that.
Right.
Lots of fun NBA stuff to get into today.
Mhm.
You know, we've been talking about this whole Luka trade business for a while, but this week we had him facing off against the Mavericks for the first time, which was really big news. I mean, it was in LA. Nico was there.
Why would he go?
We're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Nico was there. They kind of stared each other down. There's a lot of fun. Like it's probably like a half second, but when you clip it at the right spot, it's amazing.
Oh yeah. Some of those frames are just like really incredible.
Yeah, we had the Lakers crowd chanting "Thank you, Nico."
Incredible.
I mean, that's wild stuff.
It's one of the top chants. Like
yeah, I mean the Lakers did win. It was a fairly close game.
It was a fun game.
Like this injured Mavericks team, I thought put up a pretty decent
Kyrie
fight.
was hooping. He had a really good Kyrie game. Yeah.
Kyrie is
Oh,
on
Clay too.
Yeah, Clay had a good
Sneaky,
game as
yeah.
well. Yeah. And anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts. Oh, by the way, my thoughts on just the Nico thing, him being there, and then wearing that blue suit, that Mavericks blue suit. I was like, if I were him, first of all, I would never be him because I would never make this decision. I would never attach my name, even if it was the owners wanted to do it. I was like, fine, but my name's not in this. And
you wouldn't like go through multiple interviews of doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on it, and then show
and
up at
only
his first
wanting
game.
Anthony Davis and no one else. Like it's just anyway. I feel like not only would I not be at the game, I would be in witness protection. Like I don't understand.
I mean, like the smallest bit, I wouldn't even call it sympathy, is Anthony Davis looked very unstoppable in that first game for the Mavericks. But then in very typical Anthony Davis, why you don't like lean your entire organization in on him way, was injured right after. Yeah.
I mean, Nico's going to be clinging on to those 3 quarters of Anthony Davis playing
Yeah.
to save his life. You know what I
Only
mean?
because like I literally just edited a clip today. Like they will be clinging on the way we clinged on to Andrea Bargnani's January in his rookie year, where we thought he might just be an all-star before he had to get an appendectomy.
Buddy, I blocked that out.
We
I
had to.
truly blocked that out.
So the background is like our show Hello and Welcome. We were sitting on the interview for a little bit, but we finally put it out today. We interviewed Chuck Swirsky, which was really fun.
Oh, I love Chuck.
Yeah, it was a really great conversation. But what we loved was obviously going through the different eras of him calling the team, and he brings up obviously Andrea coming to the team and having like a sense of excitement at the beginning with it, and how he was at least like contributing before that appendectomy in a way that did at least get the Raptors to the playoffs that year, or at least helped contribute toward it. And then Will, who I love for absolutely for doing this, goes like, so is that why you were the one person who voted for him for Rookie of the Year?
Oh, that's so good. And did he?
He did. Yeah, he was the one person. It was the year that Brandon Roy won.
Right.
I think it would have been unanimous without Chuck's vote, although don't quote me on that one. I'd have to see like what the numbers actually were, but it was like very stark, like obviously like Brandon Roy versus Andrea Bargnani, although obviously very unfortunate what happened with Brandon's injury history.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was really great. And Chuck was so game about it, which was fun. Like obviously Will was playful with it, and Chuck's like, let's get to the bottom of this. And he explained, and he's just like, look, I called it. I worked for the team. I called the games. He did have a good run for a bit, and like who knows what it would have been if he didn't again have to get that appendectomy. And so it's like, you know, to be a rookie that is contributing to a team that like just lost its superstar and Vince Carter and like still makes it to the playoffs, you know, obviously a bit homery, but why not put that vote in? But it was funny to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Hubie Brown voting for Fred VanVleet for Finals MVP.
Valid. No kidding.
As much, I mean, I love Hubie Brown. You know, he's retired now. Which
yeah, shout out Hubie.
Thing.
Did you watch the final call?
No.
Oh, it was very sweet. You should check out the clip.
I couldn't get to it. I
think they posted it. I think ESPN posted the YouTube clip of like his final call and like
I'll YouTube that. Yeah,
yeah, it's really sweet.
Yeah, because I think he was an awesome commentator.
Oh, fantastic!
I obviously don't know him as a coach because I'm not
sure
85, but I. You know,
I do remember. I vaguely remember the Memphis Grizzly years, but yeah.
He coached the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, he coached like Marc Gasol and like
what?
Yeah, grit and grind era. I think.
Oh no,
he was in the mix. I'm pretty sure.
No, that feels like.
Okay, I'm gonna look this up. Wow.
I mean, you could be right.
No, but now I'm just questioning myself
right
at this
to
point.
Me, but what do I know? Now I've lost track.
But we were talking about Luka and Nico and all that, and how did I feel about the game? Memphis Grizzlies, 2002 to 2004.
Yeah, so that's
okay,
not
so
Marc Gasol
not Marc Gasol. You're right, but anyway, so back to it. Yeah, the Luka game. I actually did get to watch part of it. I think I was like playing basketball earlier, but then got in the second half. So I did miss some of the early bits of like him staring down the bench, although I saw the clips and things like that from it, which was like really, really good. Yeah, it was a fun game first and foremost.
Him staring down the bench was funny because it's like the bench didn't trade you.
No, but that's also like it's so
they didn't want to lose you.
No. But it's super true to Luka. Like that's like one of the pettiest people you'll find. Like he'll stare down. He'll like remember when he cooked like Rudy Gobert, like how he was yelling at him. Like it made it seem like Rudy like did something to his family. It was crazy. But yeah, Nico showing up, insane. Mark Cuban being there, pretty funny. Just all of the pieces there. I mean, the big one is undoubtedly going to be the one where he actually goes back to Dallas. Like, who knows how that one turns out. But it was just like,
it's
a really fun
you know
game.
what? It's going to be a road game for the Mavs.
Right, exactly.
When he returns to Dallas.
Oh, no,
I really think that, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the very rare instance where a superstar leaves a team and comes back to, like LeBron never had that in Cleveland. Vince
Yeah,
obviously didn't have that with the Raptors. Way different circumstances, but like a
no,
player
I
of
mean
this
it was the
caliber,
complete
yeah,
opposite. Like
yeah,
they were booed,
yeah. Well, because obviously they both of them like orchestrated their
left. Yeah,
exits. Yeah, yeah.
but I think like like how they used to do these bus tours for Toronto fans to go to Detroit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know if they still do them, but I used to always get these ads for these bus tours to go to
There were
games in
bus
Detroit.
tours. There
And then
also
you'd
was like
have like
Raptors flights that would go out to it, like
yeah,
fan flights.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I mean Detroit obviously had an awesome win last night. They've been doing really well, but those games used to be like home games for the Raptors because
Oh
there would
yeah.
be so many Raptors
It was
fans
so
there.
funny. It was so
It's
fun.
it's gonna be that times 10.
Yeah,
I
no,
predict.
it's gonna be really rough. I mean, in those moments, I kind of feel for like Anthony Davis because like he wasn't in
Oh,
control
I
of it.
know.
Like he's a good player. Like when he's healthy, like he can be like a top 5 player
I
in the
know.
league.
Everyone's treating Anthony Davis like he's
Like he's a
nothing.
bum, and like he's
Yeah.
good right now. And he's also, at least from what I read, like has been relatively healthy this last little while too. It had like, but no, it's really crazy. And the other thing too, I thought about it when the trade happened. Like obviously the trade deadline, the NBA orchestrated or not, I don't think it's orchestrated, has like managed to find a way to like at least remain interesting. And this might be one of the more interesting times to follow in the middle of like February, March, because it is like post All-Star, it can feel really dead in the NBA. Like nothing that interesting, but at least like the Luka bit and where the Lakers go and how they do is going to be.
Oh, really? I think post All-Star is interesting because then it's like this is like the final playoff push.
I think it starts
I
picking
think
up after March
January
Madness.
January
Yeah.
for me is the most dead month
Oh, interesting.
of NBA basketball.
Yeah. Oh, that I would agree with. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like especially like going into the All-Star break, it's like the teams are like you see like they're just tired, they're less motivated.
Sure.
Like a lot of those
As
games,
are us that are covering the team too.
that week going into All-Star break, I feel like there's always like all these
Oh
blowouts.
yeah.
Anyway.
But then the other thing that I think like obviously because it was a game that all of us would want to pay more attention to. Yeah, it's like I was texting with Will from the show from Hello and Welcome as well, and Alex, and the Lakers' exceptionalism is just really hard to get over because to watch that one play where it's like people mirrored it with the scene in Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell, but just is it LeBron in the paint? No. LeBron's on the outside at the 3, and him and Luka just keep on passing it back and forth to each other until a shot was available, and then LeBron just like nets a 3. Like just the Lakers obviously have been like pretty good. Austin Reeves has been having a really good season, but like they got handed Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And I think like the one thing that's really impressed me is the fact that they had a really good win against the Nuggets. Right? Because this is a team playing without
I
a
watched that
center
game
now.
too.
And the fact that they were so good against the Nuggets, that's the game that really kind of convinced me like this team is poised to make a real run this year. This is going to be LeBron's last great chance. And like we could talk about maybe next year as well. We don't know how long LeBron's going to play, but like we could talk about the Warriors as well, who have also done really well with Jimmy Butler. Also a team like lacking at the center position, but like the fact that they beat Denver I think is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, Jokic had kind of a weird low-key game, I remember.
Yeah.
But like that was a thing, especially because of the Nuggets and the Lakers and how they have been historically like recently. I remember watching and again texting with Alex and Will, just being like, I know the Lakers look like they have it, but literally every game we've seen in the last 2 years has looked like this, and then the Nuggets just pull it out.
Have you texted anyone else
about basketball or just in life?
I'm just kidding.
I've texted people. Let me see what's going on here. I've spent a lot of time with those guys in the last month. Lots of trips, lots
Yeah.
of trade deadline coverage, well beyond the Monday to Friday 9 to 5. We've just been going nonstop. Actually, like the last week was a pretty funny. Like Will stayed in San Francisco, Alex went into hermit mode, and I spent most of the week kind of sleeping and recovering. And it was like the longest time we didn't really like talk that consistently or see each other, and it was like 4 days. Yeah.
You guys are cute,
Yeah.
brothers.
Yeah, we do okay.
Okay, sorry. Was there more we wanted to say on this topic?
The Lakers are unfair, and Nico is an idiot.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
I meant to start off the show with this.
Yeah.
I forgot. I jumped ahead here by mistake, but I wanted to give, the biggest shout out to Diana Taurasi. She's retired after 20 seasons. If you look up her resume, it's truly one of the greatest basketball resumes you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah.
Not just WNBA, but international basketball as well.
Yeah. How many gold medals? Is it 5, 6?
Six. She has 6 gold medals.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just she was my favorite WNBA player. Like, I chose the Phoenix Mercury as my home team before, now Toronto was going to have a team, but the Phoenix Mercury was my home team for a long time. I'm going to miss her. I strongly feel, and I just have to speak this into existence, I strongly feel, now that NBC is going to be covering the NBA, they need her on the broadcasts.
Oh my gosh. Her sidecasts with like Sue are always like some of the most entertaining.
She's incredible on the mic. And if you don't know her, she's got like a really great sense of humor. She's really no holds bars. She'll, like she would be awesome on television. I would love to see her cover the W as well.
Sure.
But I want to see her do both. And I just feel like, where the hell? Oh my God. I didn't turn off my ringer. My phone is like so far. I'm so sorry. It's like
you're good.
People are gonna be like, she's so unprofessional. It's fine. I'm sorry. At least my dog isn't going crazy.
There you go.
She's in her crate.
Oh, there you go.
Being peaceful right now. Anyway, Diana Taurasi, truly one of the best basketball players, period. Yeah. I mean, really, and I'm gonna miss her so much, and I hope we see her on broadcasts.
I feel like that, that's more up to her than it is up to any network. If they could have her. All right.
This phone.
We can pause.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Okay, we're gonna pause.
We'll take a pause here at the 18-minute mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a delivery of something.
I mean, that's important. I actually get so mad at myself when I miss like the buzzer call, which means that like a thing I'm waiting for is not available quite yet.
We'll get this edited out.
It's all good. And we're coming back in at the 18-minute and 47-second mark. So it's been about a minute of cutting out. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Diana. We're gonna miss you. I love you.
Yeah.
And worth noting, even on an NBA pod, and you can Google that if you want.
No, I mean, but like, she is. So like the quick my history with the W is, I obviously I've been aware of the league like the entire time, but only more recently have gotten into it. And funny enough, like it actually came to fruition this past week. But one of my early, more like very vivid memories was actually watching Allie Quigley dominate the 3-point contest at All-Star. To the point that like I became obsessed with the idea of like trying to get a jersey of hers, which I just found one on eBay. So I'll send that to you when.
Oh, that's amazing! Yeah. She's retired now.
Yeah. And so, but then like with that too, it's just. I think that's one thing that's been really fun about the W is and like by extension unrivaled right now, is
Mm-hmm.
every time I see a new player, they suddenly become like my favorite player. They're just like so many different like players
Yeah.
and like characters and just like really great personalities that it's like really fun to follow around. But then like almost like an ominous presence is like Diana Taurasi. And
Yeah.
like it's just, you know, it's one of those things where it almost seems unfair to choose her as your favorite player because it's like, of course, you're choosing one of the greatest, if not maybe the greatest of all time, as your favorite player because she's
Yeah,
just
I
so
mean, it is
dominant,
like
so
saying Michael
successful.
Jordan is your favorite player, but
Right, exactly. And
whatever, I
so,
don't care. Call me basic. She's been my favorite
but
player.
like that's also like how many players in sports like can reserve the right to be just like chosen on the sheer merit of like their dominance and greatness. So like
Hmm.
she's definitely one of them. And then yeah, beyond that, to like the personality front, like she is one of my favorite assholes I've ever seen. Like
Yes,
in
that's
effect,
why I love her.
she's incredible that way. And one
Have
of
you
my favorite.
seen that Kelsey Plum clip that's been going around?
I saw the quote, which is very funny, and like it's always the same thing. Great player, what an asshole. Just like
Yeah, that's what.
consistently that.
Yeah, yeah. Great player.
Exactly.
What an asshole.
Did you see the Unrivaled clip where they asked like various players at Unrivaled, like as like it was like a welcome to the W type moment, but it's specifically about Diana Taurasi, and it's like very funny to hear about all these players sharing a time where like she like either roasted the shit out of them, was like a complete dick to them on the court, was like so aggressive, like, but everyone has a story. And then one thing that was like very cute is you have like younger players like Rakia Jackson and Angel Reese was like, I don't know what happened to all these vets, but like she's lovely to me. And just like she's nothing but nice. She was the sweetest person, so supportive. And obviously she's all those things, but I think like what's really great about it is yeah, like she was like a special kind of like sicko on the court. Like the
Yeah.
kind of thing that, you know, like you only apply to like the greats, like the one that just like whatever you call it, DNA, that gene, whatever it was, like all the way across her career, she's always been that.
Hmm.
I did also like read about how people are a little upset that like we won't see a league that has her and Paige Beckers on the court together.
Mm.
But and then other people also implying like, don't worry, the spirit of Diana Taurasi will live on because like, and then they had like highlights of Paige Beckers just like going off on people and things like that.
Oh, true. And she rocks the bun as well.
Right. Yeah. 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 So, but yeah, no, I think that's like what's great about it. And then like, and at the same time too, like I also got to see like performances of hers, and like I forget the specific one. I want to say it's a playoff performance, but just out of nowhere, like Diana, like she just took over
Yep.
and just like dominated, unstoppable, like just doing every incredible play, hitting every big shot. But like, it's one of those things that again, I think for someone of that stature, it is independently great, but also something that I think fans of hers were so used to seeing all the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest like I like Kobe would be the comp for her
Right.
style of
Exactly.
play,
I
and
had heard
that's
that.
why she
Yeah.
called that's why she was called the White Mamba and all of
Hmm.
that, right? Like Kobe called her that.
Yeah.
And I think too like one of the greatest compliments I think I've ever seen a player get was her final game, which we didn't know if it was going to be her final game or not. Was this year she lost in the first round against the Minnesota Lynx.
That's right.
And for for people who don't know, like the Minnesota Lynx were a really good team for a long time.
Hmm.
Those two teams went back and forth for a while. Like that was a real rivalry at one
Yeah.
point. They lost. So Diana loses in the first round to them. It's an away game for Diana,
Hmm.
and that crowd gave her a standing ovation
Right. Yeah.
just on the
Yeah. Like the
prospect
sheer
that it
respect.
could
Yeah.
be her last game.
Yeah.
You didn't even know for certain.
Yeah.
And yeah, that to me is like one of the great compliments,
For sure.
giving her a standing ovation. It made me emotional
Right.
watching it. It really did.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I could go on and
There's
on
also something really interesting
about
about that because of like what we kind of know her personality to be is I think for someone who is that great, you just kind of like expect and hope that she would have had some sort of like farewell season or last
Yes,
dance
well,
type deal.
that's what made it shocking. is
Yeah.
I thought she was going to have a farewell season.
But like knowing her, doesn't that seem exactly like what she would do? Like just no pomp and circumstance, just
You're like, all
would.
right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And now too, like Brittany Griner has left the Mercury, and that was shocking. But now
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
that move makes more sense now
Yes, right,
because those
right.
two were so close.
Hmm.
And anyway, yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I think one of
um,
the last things I saw on Twitter today before like heading out on my day was a clip, and like she quote tweets it, but like just Marina Mabrey like getting slapped on the court and like two refs not noticing it and just like playing through.
there was a clip that I didn't know about. It was like from 2013, and
Uh-huh.
she's facing off against the Lynx, and she's like bumping into Simone Augustus, and then she like kissed her.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then she
She
got a
kissed her
tech for it.
like a mafia,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
mafioso kiss of death.
Didn't she
Like
get
kissed her.
ejected for it and then she talked about it in her like post game presser? Like,
Yeah, and she was
yeah,
like, "Oh, I was just giving her some sweet loving."
that's come on. I think like in some ways,
Amazing
not
stuff.
to disparage the person, but like you mentioned the Kobe comp,
Mm.
like I feel like Diana Taurasi just had like way more like
She
charisma
has a
about it.
more. She has a. Oh yeah, yes to that,
Like Kobe was just kind of like a
and a
sociopath.
more decorated career as well,
Way more decorated career,
and longer.
longer
But I just meant
career.
in terms of like style of play.
No, no, no. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like they were both like kind of regarded as just like real killers on the court. But like
Yeah.
I think the thing that like kind of gets separated from Kobe in like honoring him is just like very little about it is actually like likable or entertaining.
Kobe wasn't
Yeah,
likable with other people like that.
yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
like Diana was that level of competitor, but people still liked her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're almost like tickled by her like sheer assholeness.
Yeah, because I think she would like do it with a bit of a smile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway,
Love Diana. Okay, apologies for the bit of back and forth here. With my topics.
it's all good.
Going back to the NBA here,
Hmm.
I wanted to talk a bit about Durant because he had an interview on Draymond's podcast, and
Hmm.
those two like to get a little messy together. You know, they like to get a little messy, but this was particularly interesting because Kevin Durant talked about why he blocked the trade to
Yeah.
Golden State. And he basically said he didn't want to be traded mid-season,
Hmm.
and he felt like he wanted, he started something here in Phoenix and he wanted to see it through. All of which, in my opinion, would make sense if it wasn't for their dismal record.
Right. I get that.
And I feel like the
There's also the
conversation was completely void of the fact that Phoenix might not even make the play in this year.
No, yeah, it's rough. I actually was at the Raptors game against Phoenix, and I just assumed that Phoenix was going to come back on the sheer level of talent, and I'm just like, oh, I guess Phoenix is just really bad, which was crazy to watch. But I mean, the other part about it too that I think Katie mentioned, which is also very fair, is also to make something like that happen for the cost that he is
Yeah.
and the level of player that he is. It wouldn't have been a thing where like you could simply just like plug him in the way it was when he was a free agent and sign with them. Like the Warriors would have had to given up probably like a ton of depth or like something that would like really tank. It would have to be like such a win now situation that wouldn't be a guarantee, and they might not even have like the pieces to like really build something out just to like get KD into the mix.
Right, which is probably true.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I feel like when him and Draymond get together, it's not always a factual conversation. It's like
No,
it's
yeah.
like they're not like, this is like they're not necessarily like a narrator, which is kind of like
They're like an
a
unreliable
literary
narrator.
device.
Yeah, yeah,
Where,
yeah.
an
Yeah, yeah.
unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I do love Kevin Durant.
I love Kevin Durant.
But
Did you watch
sometimes
Court of Gold?
I've not seen Court of Gold yet.
If you love Kevin Durant, like you will,
Really?
like, it will
Okay.
cement as
I
like,
got. Maybe I'll talk about it next week on the pod.
yeah, I don't know. There's something about KD, and yeah, I am like really informed by like recently watching Court of Gold and just really loving his perspective, and also just generally over the course of time, like really appreciating his perspective on things in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tend to just trust him on it, even if it's like not the most reliable. Like everything that you're laying out there makes perfect sense. Like how can you possibly say that when you see how abysmal your team is right now? But I think that's also something that probably he has inherently built in him and has helped him to get to this place of like he believes so much in how good he is and probably some of the players that he's playing with that they can like at
Turn it
some point
around.
turn it around. Which is kind of I think what you need to do when you're like someone that has reached the heights that he has reached, and I think also add in the fact that like he doesn't need to chase a title. He already did that when he like got to the Warriors and like won it there.
Right.
So maybe not to say that there isn't an urgency, but there isn't so much of a thing of like he already did the thing that a lot of people panned him for in terms of like everything you're describing there could have been a thing of like, well, if you're saying that about the Suns, why didn't you just stay with the Thunder and like see it through, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm
But
not saying that.
I'm neither am I.
Right.
Um, but I think to that end too is just like he's won a championship. He knows what it takes to win a championship. He knows everything that kind of goes in between, and he also like knows. I think at this stage of his career, like what he wants. Like I think there are also elements of just to have to uproot yourself, to have to leave your situation. Like he might just like his situation in Phoenix, and that should be enough for him. I think. In you
Yeah.
presenting this question and me thinking about it, I actually like thought back to something, and I'm paraphrasing, like I remember him saying about when he first went to the Warriors and people getting really mad about that,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was like it just made so much sense to me when he like put it this way. He just said, if you had the opportunity to go to a better city with a better job, why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
okay, there's a lot here.
Hmm.
I'll address the latter first. It wasn't that, I mean, I didn't like it when he went to Golden
Of
State back
course. Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rewrite history and pretend
No.
I
No.
didn't. But it wasn't because I thought it was a bad move for him.
Yeah.
It was because it was bad for the league.
Yeah. No.
It just
Obviously,
it
there's like that
ruined the
frustrating part.
competitive balance of the league.
Hmm.
It had nothing to do with like what I thought was best for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just, so there's that
Totally.
part.
Totally. Yeah.
But I also like I agree with you when in that I think when you watch the Draymond interview with him and you kind of look in between the lines, I think there is a contentment with him about his career and
Yes.
where he's at in life. That was my bigger takeaway, more so than just him saying like I want to finish what I've started here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Right? Like that to me is more like surface level. There's some BS in there, not
Hmm.
all, but some. But I think behind that is I'm content with my career.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a whole lot to prove anymore. If it makes sense for me to be in a different situation, sure, but I'm not going to force it at
Yep.
this point in my career and in my life.
Yeah.
And for him too, he's probably like, "Hey, I get paid and I get to take off mid-April through
Sure. Yeah.
September. Why not?" You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why am I playing into June at my age if I don't I mean,
Yeah.
like he didn't say all that. That's me,
No. No. But
adding
I
more
no.
to
But
it, but
I
yeah.
do. I really feel what you're saying there because and I think that's also why I really appreciate sometimes Kevin Durant's perspective is because in some ways I feel it can be applicable to like my own life and just like where I feel like I've like what I've gone through, where I could go back to like for those who don't know, like my first career or my first job in sports was with MLSC. And for many, and it's I'm not even like diminishing that, it like you're like, oh, it's like the top sports company in Toronto, maybe Canada. Like to
Mhm.
make it there should be achievement, but in itself, and almost like feel like you've made it to like the top.
Mhm.
And very much so, I felt like so fortunate and privileged that way. Like I got to work through the years. Like my first year there, I was covering Toronto FC as they won like every trophy, including the championship, and like set like a league history record. And then I also, as a basketball fan, got to experience the entire like Toronto Raptors championship run, to the point that like I even have like a ring to commemorate it at this point. Like there's all these things that like were like super great, but also like kind of fortunate in a way of like I remember the feeling of Game 6 finishing. I'm in Jurassic Park. It's an away game, so obviously nobody's in the arena, but I like jump away into the concourse of Gate 1. I call my dad. I cry. I'm like very excited about it. I'm very emotional. But then for whatever reason, in almost like a moment of clarity, I was like, oh, this might be it. Like, if I never do anything else in sports, that might be okay. And it still feels so early in my career. But I think there's like that kind of element of like where I may or may not relate to like KD and like some of the stuff that you're saying there of just like when you, if you ever like fortunate enough to experience like some really big moments, you also kind of get the perspective of just like the chase for them maybe isn't worth the cost sometimes. And like when I think about the idea of like when I left MLSC to go work at other places, and I talk to friends all the time about leaving the company, like whether they're doing it or not. Like I remember having a really good conversation with a friend who left, who was like starting to feel like a sense of FOMO of not being in the company anymore, even though they are in a really good situation. And it just reminded me of this idea of like, oh, but it's because like those highs can almost feel like a drug, and sometimes it can feel like even though you're not experiencing like you're in a good situation, like you're not being a part of it feels heavy, and it feels like, oh, I should go back to it. And the thing I had to remind him, and the thing I think like you spoke to, and I think maybe also applies to like what KD might be feeling, is like even if you wanted to go back to that place where you experienced like the greatest highs of your life, it's guaranteed to not be the same experience.
Yeah.
The people are different. Everything is different. The circumstances are different. You're a different person. So chasing that on that alone is probably not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, yeah, when you read in between the lines, I feel like that's what
Yeah.
he's saying. But you still work in sports, Jerome.
But I still work in sports. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. But I think like being in a space now of like at least a mindset of I don't necessarily need the industry or the sports to serve me as much as I'm just really happy to be here.
I get that. You get to a point in your life where you're more settled into who you are and what you want and all of those things.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we should move on to our Raptors Homer moment. Is
I
that
kind of
where
want to
we're
touch on
at?
this like other topic that you had here, just because it
Oh
like
my
leads to
god!
this.
No, we do need to do this. What is
speaking
wrong
about
with me
speaking about
today?
stepping away from sports and sports media, Paul George takes a break from podcasting to pursue a
Thank you.
championship.
How could I have missed that? How could I have missed that? Paul George has taken
incredible.
a break from podcasting to quote unquote pursue a championship. Here's the thing. Paul George, worst season of his career, I'm pretty sure.
That would not be a surprise.
The 76ers are currently 12th.
Yeah,
in the
I had to
East.
look it up. It's bad.
They have lost.
They lost to the Bulls and were down by like 50 at a point.
Yeah, they have lost 9 games in a row. I mean, it's like, to me, I'm like, who's had the more disappointing season? Is it the 76ers or is it the Phoenix Suns? Because the 76ers have been embarrassingly bad, but the Phoenix Suns have been healthy.
Yeah, but they're also in a much tougher conference.
They are in a tougher conference. I think the 76ers have
like
been
the Sixers
worse.
should feel like, I remember seeing like Tier Maker. It was like someone who built a tier maker of like the Eastern Conference. And I think it was just like who like in broken down in terms of like kind of contenders, not. And I was like, I think it went like contender, literally only the Boston Celtics. The next one was like teams that have Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee Bucks. And then every other team that doesn't have a chance, and it's like literally the rest of the teams in the East, and the bottom one was just like the Washington Wizards and the Washington Wizards, something to that effect.
Right.
But just to say that like how wide the East is open and like at least on paper how much it just seems like the Sixers should walk to at least the conference finals, if not like whatever the matchup is, could be difficult. Like making the finals, a lot of luck, a lot of things working your way, but like nothing about the state of the Eastern Conference should say that like the Sixers shouldn't be in heavy consideration, and they're 12th.
Yeah. Also, too, like I'm surprised that they haven't just shut down Embiid for the season.
Yeah, I feel like
That's another thing where it's like by All-Star break, you knew it wasn't going to happen,
mm-hmm.
and he's been playing so injured. Like I don't know how many like MRIs he's
It's
had
so
on his
rough.
knees
Yeah,
or whatever at this point, but it's so bad that like I, it isn't worth him playing and risking losing like a year or
yeah,
something, right? Like it's not worth losing next year to
mm-hmm.
have him continue to play. And I mean, Paul George has been so abysmal and
Yeah.
he's had so much criticism about it. And then he had his like whole Instagram post during All-Star break with his wife that was like very like I don't
Oh,
know.
I missed this one. What happened?
It's like a risque photo. I mean,
Oh, okay, okay.
it's not banned or anything, but
Right,
it's,
yeah, yeah.
and he's just, he's just lapping it up, living life. And it's like, buddy, you scored like 2 points. Like you haven't earned a vacation. But
Everyone gets a vacation during NBA
no,
All Star. Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
gets a
yeah.
vacation, but everyone gets a vacation. But I'm just saying it's
No, I
like
get what you mean.
like
He
you're bragging when like you are struggling and you get paid so much and I think too like
It's very tough for
it's
Paul
tough,
George.
and I think
Yeah.
like Nick Nurse will probably get fired,
Yeah, I
which
don't
I
think he's
know a lot
making
of
it past the end of the
I know a
season.
lot of there's a lot of Nick Nurse haters in Toronto.
Sure.
I don't think this situation is his fault. However, he's really bad at rallying the troops, so to speak. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
that part he can't do.
Yeah,
Right? So it's like when things go bad, I feel like he just makes it worse somehow. But then
sure.
when things are good, he can make it better.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, 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 no. Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
actual analysis of
No, no,
him.
it's a very interesting one. We really don't need to do a deep dive on Nick, but like
No.
yeah, so much is informed on the fact that his first head coaching job he won a championship. But like the larger sample size or data set says, and like he's had obviously like good years like with the Raptors since, but like everything that you said is basically like
Yeah,
those
when
are
things are
also is
good,
true. Yeah.
he can make it better. When things are bad, he
Um
makes it worse.
yeah, Paul George is it's so tough because by all accounts he seems like a pretty decent guy. Like a pretty decent like
Right.
likable guy who just I don't know a player historically at least in like modern times that has like played himself over and over. Like the podcast stuff like is just like way too late to like take a break and then suddenly say this stuff.
Yeah, the
His,
timing's ridiculous. If he did it to start the season, it would have been different.
his Gatorade commercials, his calling himself playoff P, like just so many different instances where someone who seems to have like good perspective and a pretty grounded person puts out some of the most tone deaf like posts, content, whatever that like makes it impossible for us to not clown him for it.
Yeah, some people just lack self-awareness.
Yeah. Like even the like when I guess he must have been on OKC and Dame hits like one of his infamous like Dame time shots on him and he's just like it was a bad shot. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
don't need to
I
you know what I mean?
remember
Like
that. It's like he
things like
made the
that.
shot.
Yeah, it just you don't need to do that. But which is also so funny because he's like not like that usually is reserved for someone who's like a very obnoxious person. Like it would make a little
Right.
more sense if like Draymond Green were like that, and we're like or a Pat Beverly or anyone to that effect.
Mm.
But like Paul George just seems like such a mild mannered, like okay guy who keeps on just like again clowning himself.
Yeah, unbelievable. But really, like, probably the most disappointing season based on
Oh my gosh.
expectations and results. The
So we were in
76ers.
Philadelphia for like the Raptor game, which we
Mm.
really did not think we were gonna win. But we did, and like in almost like you could say like not dominant, but like in convincing fashion. The thing that really stood out to us in the arena was how like deafeningly loud it was in there, like and not in terms of crowd, but in terms of just like like the
Like
in arena
pumping in noise?
the loudest noise you've ever heard. Like it
Whoa.
was unbearable. I remember trying to edit some stuff while I was there, and I could barely hear my own computer.
Whoa, crazy.
And we got, and we won't name our sources. We got some intel that says like it's done because very like almost like as early as like a first quarter, Philadelphia fans will boo their team, and they're trying to drown it out. And I'm like, that is obviously like
just let the boos happen.
That like it's also like a picture of like Philadelphia fans can get that way, and we understand that. But also like, oh my gosh, how down bad is your franchise that you're like that is a thing that you're doing to the point that like people can't even hear in the arena anymore.
Yeah, that's really bad.
It's rough.
But I feel like let the boos happen because it can be motivational.
It can be, yeah.
I mean, if it happens all the time, it can be draining.
Yeah, that's a bit toxic. Yeah, like to like be booed out like within your first quarter, like regardless of how it's going, is like kind of a rough look.
But I like, it depends on who you are. I'm not like this, but there are some comedians out there who I know who it's like they don't necessarily get booed per se, but if somebody doesn't like their content, right? Like, oh, like you're complaining online or whatever, right? They get off on the fact that they got any reaction at all. Yeah. Right? Where it's like the silence is worse.
Right?
Like if someone's booing you, it's like
say, like the ambivalence is worse than like the passion.
Yeah, because it's like at least you've made them feel something.
Right. Yeah.
Right, where like the silence is worse. So to me, it's like the fake noise.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a player issue as much as like an organization, like
like the
not wanting the optics to look bad.
Yeah, of course, that's just optics. But from the team's perspective, actual emotion from people
is a good
would be more powerful.
Yeah.
Than, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Because then you get to have conversations about accountability and all sorts of things, right? Like it would be more powerful to just allow the boos to happen, I think. Because then it becomes your responsibility to turn that around.
I see that,
and that's the goal, right?
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Maybe
I feel
it's
like
not
they
a
have a rough
championship
relationship
or whatever, but that's the goal.
Also, like the craziest thing is like
going through the motions and and just being whatever, you know.
The other thing that's like crazy about this whole Paul George thing and the Paul George to Philadelphia experiment is like who was calling in the preseason that James Harden would look like the better option?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because James Harden is kind of hooping out here.
Well, definitely more so than Paul
more so
George.
Than PG. Yeah.
I mean, they definitely won that whole exchange, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he would be playing the same way if he were in Philly.
No, for sure. Thing. I mean, like, if anything, Daryl Morey should thank Nico Harrison for taking the Heat now as, like, the worst
GM. Correct, because we would be clowning Daryl Morey more and maybe calling for him to be fired or something.
I mean, it's hard to, like, do you see him surviving the rest of the season along with Nick? Usually the coach is first to go. Like that's
I do see him surviving this season because he has made other good moves. Like he got off the Ben Simmons contract.
Yeah,
it's like one of the hardest things for a GM to have to do, right? Like he got James Harden for that. You know, like I don't know. Like I think he has other forms of credibility. Like I don't think this season alone would kill it, but like. The clock's ticking,
and like no one would have been mad at the Paul George move in light of like James Harden leaving like preseason,
right?
Yeah,
right. This actually segues into a Raptors Homer moment quite nicely because there is talk out there, talk amongst the internets. Okay,
the answer is no.
Is that if Joel Embiid were to leave the 76ers, the Raptors would have the best chance
Yeah, but they're
of
not even
getting it.
great odds. They're not even like really good
this
odds.
is
They
a
just have
head
the best odds.
scratcher.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know why we would make such a move at this point.
I mean, not specifically to Joel because obviously his like injury history and things like that, but for the Raptors as an organization, and it's reflected a little bit in their move for Brandon Ingram. Like this is really the only way we get a high caliber player that isn't like one that we somehow like are managed to like build up through like the lottery. Like we're just not a destination as a team, like a free agency destination. So it's like one of those weird things where
but is that a reason to sign Joel Embiid?
No. Like this is but like I think just like in general the idea of someone who has the caliber of Joel Embiid, like not obviously counting like the wild inconsistency because of his like injury history, like I can see why it's a thought. Like more so because of just the state of like where the Raptors are of just like this is the only way. But like I mean the short answer is no. Like he has a very unreliable like injury history. We have no idea like what he looks like in the next coming years. There just isn't a credible reason to like go for that right now.
Yeah, I mean to me it's like signing Kawhi Leonard today. Like it's just
But like I mean that's also how they felt about like signing Kawhi Leonard when we did too.
No, but
like,
that was different. That was different. That in that scenario you don't have multiple years of evidence. Right. I had this tangent last week, so I won't do it too hard right now. But we have to, as a Raptors organization, you know, that influences culture through marketing or otherwise, needs to stop with this idea that Toronto is a bad free agency spot.
It is, though.
No, it isn't.
What do you mean?
No, Toronto is not a bad free agency destination.
Wait, okay, but what do you?
They have
like,
to
I'm
turn
saying, what
this
do you mean?
around.
What do you mean that? Like, oh, like that they need to turn it around?
Yeah,
no, but I just mean in
the culture because it's not actually a bad free agency spot. People just think it is.
Okay, like when I say it, I'm not saying like the Raptors are a bad organization or bad option, but historically we have not been able to really.
No, historically, sure, but
yeah, that's all I mean. Yeah,
but we're saying like, oh, we got Brandon Ingram now because we can't land free agents. Oh, well, the only reason we would ever go after Joel Embiid is because we can't get free agents. That narrative needs to end. This is the hill I'm sitting on.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I don't think I'm dying. Like, I don't think I'm dying.
No, that's fair. Like I get where you're coming from about trying to shift it, but I think maybe in order to shift it is you need to like be a little pragmatic and go about it this way now to prove that these like higher caliber players would actually enjoy playing here. And this is like the way to go about it.
Players do enjoy playing here. And like and players love visiting. Like so many people say, oh, Toronto's one of their favorite NBA cities.
Totally fair. You hear this but none of them are signing here.
But why? It doesn't make sense. It's one of like, oh, it's cold. It gets cold in New York. It's cold in Boston. Like,
I mean, we don't have an answer for that, but I think that's the other thing too. Well, okay, I think
we've won a championship recently. Sure, we still have that same front office. They are very competent. Sure, you know what I mean? Like there is.
I think one thing that really plays in is for all the like. It's kind of similar maybe to like, hey, I love vacationing or I love visiting here, but I can never see myself living there. Like, I think there's like an element of... You
only live here for so much of the year anyway. You're on the road half the time.
Right. I think American exceptionalism is just very hard to overcome.
Yeah. But that's the only thing. Like,
which is why, like, it's even when
stupid that Toronto isn't a free agency destination.
I agree it's stupid. I also... think it's kind of unfortunately a matter of fact right now. Like I think even when I thought about like that's why
I'm not saying it isn't a matter of fact, but it's like you got to start pushing to change the narrative, right? Okay, quote unquote Mad Men, Don Draper. Okay, if you don't like what people are saying, you change the conversation.
Sure,
that's what they need to do. Okay. Sure. And they've done it before. The We the North campaign was very successful. This organization was a joke.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Right? Like it was a joke. And then They got some really good young players together. They
Yeah.
created this whole We the North
Through
campaign.
trades and drafting.
Yeah, I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah.
like they turned the organization around. They changed the perception
Yeah, I
of
don't
the
think anyone's
Raptors
arguing that though.
from a joke. So what I'm saying is it's possible to change a perception. It's possible to change people's minds about this. It,
Yeah,
it, it actually is.
no, I again I agree with all that, but I think just in practice, in order to achieve that, I think you still have to go about it in a way where you need to have like a proven like one thing that feels
Look, I'm
encouraging
not
is that
saying we're going
Brandon.
to be LA or Miami. I'm not saying that. But
No,
there's no reason why it should be an absolute that we can't land free agents. Like
yeah, yeah, I get that.
that has to end.
No, no, I agree with you. I just don't
I'm very
think like
passionate.
yeah, I just don't think marketing is gonna do it enough.
No, but it would help.
It would help, yeah, but I
It
mean,
would
like,
help a lot.
I think it has helped. I think it's like taken us as far as we can go with that.
No,
Like, where marketing,
disagree
yeah,
there. Disagree there. Look, like this is what I was talking about on the pod last week is that
mm-hmm,
like, these guys get paid in American dollars
mm-hmm,
and they talk about the taxes and stuff, but it's
mm-hmm.
like you live here, you live in a land where everything's 30% off. Your house,
Sure,
your car, all of that. It more than makes up for the taxes,
yeah,
which are like 15%.
yeah,
So it's like
um,
it does like this city is nice, it's clean, it's
yeah,
safe. The
yeah.
games are always sold out. It's one of the most expensive tickets in the
I
whole league.
Again, I agree with all that. I think maybe it's a little bit being jaded from speaking to like too many people on the American side of things. I don't think it matters enough. It's just not America.
Yeah, okay. Well, the other point I would make is the international players don't care.
That's the part I was gonna come to, where I think
They
that's
don't
where
they
it
don't
was
have the
gutting.
American BS.
It was
That
gutting
I
to not get
understand what you're
Giannis.
talking about though.
It was gutting to not get Giannis because he felt like an actual opportunity to like get snag a player.
Yeah,
But
I
the very
agree.
reason why we think we have a chance with Giannis or thought we had a chance with Giannis is also the very reason why he stayed in a small market like Milwaukee and didn't move to like other, like it's just the fact that like he does seem to be wired differently than others, which is also
Right.
why I think the
But
Brandon
they
Ingram
also went on to win a championship and they were a good team.
sure. But yeah, and like when it comes to like that's why the Brandon Ingram having like more like everything that he's saying is great. He clearly has an interest in Toronto. I think like he's like a good example of like the fruits of all the stuff that we've built so far that like someone has acknowledged and even like has been had a willingness to like sign here. But um yeah, I think it's just like a tough call. Like I completely agree with everything you're saying about why it should be a thing. But unfortunately, I just feel strongly that there are larger things that seem arbitrary and unreasonable that ultimately still dominate the decision
Mm-hmm.
making.
Mm-hmm. I just think there's a world where we can actually move past this.
Yeah, but I think where we're probably just going to be divided on is I think part of getting to that world is operating within the bounds of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think you need to do like again
Listen,
very clearly.
Masai, I'm
No,
here. Hire me.
sure.
Hire me.
Yeah.
I'll talk to these guys.
Sure.
I don't care.
But yeah, no,
I'll talk to them.
right. Back to the Joel thing. Obviously, none of us think that this is like the right move to make. But again, like just generally speaking, this is probably to get like again someone of that caliber player, a way to go about it. Like the Brandon Ingram example, I think is like a really good example of like this is how we can get a perennial all-star. Find him in the right situation. It's like a little bit akin to like the Kawhi Leonard situation,
Perennial all-star?
or like sorry, someone who can achieve an all-star level. He has like the ceiling of being able to be an all-star player.
He has the ceiling of being an Eastern Conference all-star player.
You know what?
That is his ceiling.
Fair. Either way, I think to that end, like that is the kind of thing that right now feels like our ability. Because like we really shouldn't do this, but like if we were to run through the top players currently in the league and like name who do we think would actually be inclined to come here, I don't know that we would find many.
Pascal Siakam again.
Sure.
I'm kidding. All right. Okay, let's move on to our hottie highlight of the
Mm-hmm.
week. I've got a couple for you here. One is Scotty Barnes
Yep.
being the best cheerleader ever. I believe he's in this clip, he's at a school.
He's at MLSC Launchpad. It was
Oh,
the
he's at
Raptors
MLSD
visit.
Launchpad.
It was the
Thank
Raptors
you.
visit day. It was also the same day that Jacoby Walter got named as the Raptors ambassador, which is a thing they do for all MLSC teams. They usually pick like a rookie or a young player to be kind of like the representative of the team. So like when they have different activations, events, things like that, they would like visit often and like get to engage with the kids.
Right.
But like they always have like a full team visit, and this was like the full team visit.
Okay, so we've got Scotty at this
Mm-hmm.
full team visit. We've got Jakob reflecting on his friendship with Pascal Siakam
Beautiful. I
and
love Yak and
how,
skills.
and that it was hard for him to quote lose his best friend on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And
Twice.
and then we have, one more shout out to Diana Taurasi, who was on The View today,
Mm-hmm.
as a part of, her retirement announcement. Whoopi Goldberg mispronounced Taurasi's last name.
Was it
And
Taurasi?
yeah,
She
and then
said,
in
yeah.
retaliation, Diana Taurasi deliberately pronounced Whoopi
Whippy.
incorrectly as Whippy,
Yeah.
which is just fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So in MNBA, Scotty wins, but it's definitely Diana Taurasi. Because like, how do you not like one of the greatest basketball players of all time like ends their career like it could have been like
And Whoopi goes to games. Like she
sure
actually
sure
goes to WNBA games. Like I was shocked that out of all people, Whoopi Goldberg didn't know.
yeah, she got really shook with that. But like it you could have offered me like Diana Taurasi scene drinking a coffee outside at a park, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's probably the highlight of the week. Like this week in particular, I don't know how you can go in any other direction.
Yeah.
In fairness, that said, like we actually got like a proper like DT moment that is very true to her personality, the pettiness, the cheekiness, the just like, but like all done in a very charming and charismatic way. The quick-wittedness, like just all of it is just like so perfectly encapsulating, adding to the lore. Like just she's natural. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hottie highlight.
Yes, Diana. I love like if watch this clip of her on The View. She's absolutely awesome.
It's really good.
Yeah. Well, we should probably wrap it up there.
Sounds good.
Jerome, thank you so much for being on this episode today.
No problem.
I appreciate you. I appreciate our heated conversation around US nationalism and my Toronto pride. Thank you, everyone.
I have your pride, but I also have
Yes.
faced like a gluttony of like I used to, so like not to dive back into it like heavily, like my job after MLSC was working at the Athletic, and
Right.
the amount of
So you
times
saw it.
the amount of times I felt like a Canadian working in an American company, even like actually, is there such thing as like a like I don't want to disparage, but like what's the opposite of a hottie highlight?
I don't know.
But anyway,
you're a booger. Like,
a booger, yeah. The booger low light of the week was I was at the Monica Rogers introduction for the
Yes.
Tempo GM, which is really
I
great.
was able to attend on Zoom.
Right. The question from I mean like it's not outing him because like he asked, and Richard Deitch from The Athletic introducing his question with nice to see a fellow American here
Oh,
in
I
Toronto.
noticed that. I was like, what?
And like a lot of people were taken aback from it, and I hate to say it, like there was a part of me that like was just like, oh, I remember that feeling.
Oh, yeah, it's like, do you not see other? I think he was also like struggling to like he wanted to like endear himself to her,
Of course.
and it just came off kind
The
of
tone was like way
cringe.
off. And then he also like his second question was prefaced with like, we know that Canada is a prideful country. I think the other thing to like at least contextualize the moment was it was the literal eve of, or yeah, I think like the day before the Four Nations Cup final, which I do not want to go into because of, as someone who is very anti-nationalism, I was not a fan of
I
that.
I don't follow it enough to
Sure.
engage.
But all that to say that like yeah, Americans feel very greatly about America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Booger
But thank you,
Lowlight. That's
Happening.
hilarious.
Booger Lowlight. Yeah, that's what,
Thank you.
Booger Lowlight's
Thank you.
almost like too endearing. It's just like
No,
cute.
it's
Yeah.
collaborative because I said
Yeah.
I said booger, and then
Yeah.
you were like, okay, it's the low light instead of the highlight.
Booger just sounds like very cute. Like if I were like, I don't want to call him
Listen,
like an
I'm not
uggo.
trying to get sued out here, you know?
Sure, fair enough. Yeah.
I'm trying to have a life, Jerome,
Fair.
in this world.
In Toronto, the greatest
In
market in the
Toronto.
world.
It does sound utterly ridiculous when you put it that way.
Right.
I didn't say it was the greatest.
A market that deserves its flowers.
I said it was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you everyone so much for listening and tuning in. Appreciate you so much. Like, subscribe, leave a positive review. Always appreciate that. Appreciate people who are who comment regularly. I do see them and I appreciate it. I don't know how many times I can say appreciate in a sentence, but I've done it. So thank you again, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.